Welcome back. This is the second part of the budget setup modules. This is module number 3 of the Budget 1 course. My name is Dean Astorino. I will be walking you through these slides again. Specifically, we're going to go over the budget setup as it's related to translating it into your institution's financial management system. So let's begin. Later, I will give you an example of how we do it here at Cuyahoga Community College. But first, I'm going to go over some more information. After the GAN has been issued, a budget has been approved by your institution, you will need a procedure in place to enter this into your financial management system. Some of you might use an ERP system. At Cuyahoga Community College, we use Banner. And a lot of this can be located in the Uniform Guidance 2 CFR .302. And there's also information available to you as an attachment in your GAN. So based on the uniform guidance, your institution must follow statutes, regulations, procedures, and terms and conditions. It must be able to identify of all federal awards received and expended. So you must have some kind of unique system to identify this each separate instead of related to all your budget combined. And you must have accurate, current, and complete disclosure of each federal award. Additionally, records should identify adequately the source and application of all federally funded activities, which we already mentioned. And you should have effective internal controls to safeguard assets, which were covered pretty exclusively in the COSO presentation. An important thing here is you should have the ability to compare expenditures with budget amounts for each federal award. So as we mentioned before, you should have a way to uniquely identify those funds as related to this federal award instead of just having them all combined in your accounting system. And something important that you should note is you should have written procedures to implement the requirements for payment. And you should also have written procedures for determining the allowability of cost. To do this, you should have an endpoint system to put your GAN into your accounting system, as I mentioned before. And before, I've also mentioned that at Cuyahoga Community College, we use Banner, and I will now go over our system that we use to input the grant budget into our system, Banner. The first step after the grant has been issued, we receive the GAN, and the budget has been set up with the USDOE, is we have the project director fill out a request for new budget form 21, which you might hear me refer as BF21. And this is the first step that helps us translate the budget categories in the grant into our chart of accounts in Banner. At the top of the BF21, we have various information on there, including the department, the program name, which would be the project name for your TRIO program. And very important thing, who's prepared by, which should be the project director, and who is approved by, which should be their supervisor. That way we have multiple levels of approvals, reviewing and then approving this prior to it being sent forward. Next, you will see the document number entry date, which is just our system. We have to enter it through journal entry. Org, which is known as org code here. This drives our approval queues for various journal entries, budget changes, and any purchase orders or travel put in. Program, which drives our expenditures on our financial statements for the institution as a whole. And then fund, which I mentioned before, is we use a separate fund code for each federal award. Your institution might not use a separate fund number, but it is important that it has a system to specify this compared to all your budgets as a whole, so that you're able to compare this specific budget to its expenditures uniquely. Next, you will see revenue. So at our institution, we have one account that we use specifically for federal grants, which is $1,400. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. And next, we're going to go over the different expense accounts. This is just a short list. As I mentioned, we should have different bridge reports built, And that's important because, as you see, there's only a few counts on here. However, we have 2 or 3 times that much actually compared to the categories the USDOE has. So it's important to notice, you have multiple accounts for personnel, but that's only one personnel budget. So it's important to be able to translate in there to, it's crucial to helping you manage your budget. So after the BF21 is prepared, reviewed, and approved, it's then forwarded to another department, and we begin to prepare an award packet for it. In this award packet for the TRIO programs, the BF21 would be an important document. The GAN, as mentioned in the previous module, in the attachments. And then in the following slides, I will go over basically a cover sheet. We use an award notification form that I will go over in the upcoming slides. So here's a blank copy. I'll go in more detail, but this is the blank copy of our award notification as a whole. So let's go on the next slide, and then we'll go at the top of it. You see the date, which would be the date that this award notification was prepared, the sponsor / agency, which would be the United States Department of Education for these, pass-through agency if you were sub-recipient receiving this funding from another institution, the funding source, which for TRIO obviously is federal, the CFDA number, which we covered in a lot of other slides before, which is important for your preparing your CFA and your single audit. The amount awarded in the budget period is in one column, and the next column would be the cumulative amount. The match portion, which I briefly covered about institutional support, which if you're obligating it, you should be working with your institution to make sure that they budgeted for it. And then the project director's name would be included on here, and any special instructions, kind of miscellaneous items. The next section will include the grant's title, student support services, veterans upward bound, etc. Project start date, which will be based on your award year and your how many years you expect to have in the current cycle. Any due dates or reporting or billing, which we'll cover in upcoming modules. And then the billing frequency, which we will cover in upcoming modules too, but which would be the drawdowns in your G5 system that you're completing and should be completing on a regular basis. Next, we got the attachments, which I mentioned before, the grant agreement or the GAN, and any attachments to the GAN, the BF21, or the request for new budget, also known as the BF21. And at the bottom, we got that accounting information again, the org code, which drives our approval queues, the program code, which drives to our financial statements, and the fund code, which is our way of tracking uniquely each federal award. Then we set it up in our financial management system, which at Cuyahoga Community College, we use a Banner. So in this form, you see you got the chart of accounts, which is a unique code for, we have one for our college, which is C, and then we have another one for our foundation side, which is F. Grant number, which is a unique code that we have so we could track it separately in Banner, and then the fund code, as I mentioned before. The title, the effective date that this one started, the termination date, which ends we got this for 5 years. The fund type, which helps us with our various reporting, especially financial reporting and other tracking that we do for federal restricted. Then we have ones for state, local, unrestricted, and various other types of fund types. The AR account, which so Banner automatically calculates, as you see in the next line, a revenue account. And so that would be the credit, and then the debit to receivable, which then we would use to offset when we do our G5 drawdown. And then, as I mentioned at the bottom there, it has a default org code and program code, which I mentioned drives approval queues and different financial reporting. So after we set up the fund, we've reviewed the BF21, and we've entered the BF21 in our Banner accounting system. We then send an email out to the project director and any other applicable parties, and grants management, compliance, different offices. And in this email we'll have some language in there. At beginning, we'll notify them the grant number, the fund code, the org code, the program code. And at our institution, we assigned a grant accountant for each specific federal award. And then in addition, it will have links onto different forms so that they can make sure that they have access in the accounting management to monitor this. And it'll have links to forms if they don't have access that they need to fill out and have forwarded, and who they have to have it forwarded to. It will have links to the different responsibilities that the project director was responsible for this management of this budget. And then, accounting's there to help them. And as I mentioned before, it'll have the name of the accountant that they could contact to help, because obviously as project directors, you may have various knowledge of accounting. So we're, at our institutions, we have someone assigned to help, and I'm sure many of your institutions might have not a specific person, but a department that they can contact to help manage this budget as important as it is important for your institution. After that, it will also include the award packet, which will, has, as I mentioned before, that notification, the BF21, and the GAN and any attachments. This will conclude this module. I want to thank you for sitting through this information as an example of how we put the budget set up into our accounting system. Any questions could be forwarded to Nichelle Knox. Her email is located on this slide. There will be some questions following this module that you have to complete. After you've completed these questions, please come back and we will continue our next module, which will cover determining allowable costs. Thank you again, and I will see you at the next module.